I'm actually glad that you're here today because I wanted to get you in on a few of the Black Fathers Matters episodes, but the fact that you actually got to do this one, I'm glad you got to come through. How you doing, Jay?
I'm doing all right. I've been meaning to get on to one of these, but just scheduling and life.
How have you been? I haven't seen you in a minute either. We took a little bit of break, but it's okay. How have you been?
I've been doing all right. I've been handling business, taking care of things, and being a father, as what this mini-series is about.
Absolutely. Welcome to another episode of the Excuse Me Brother podcast show, Black Fathers Matters edition. I'm your host, Brother Jay, and I got with me my producer Jay. And tonight, again, this is another edition of the Black Fathers Matter episode. This episode will focus on one of my co-workers with New York City Transit Authority. His name is Marcel Bennett. I met Bennett approximately 7 years ago. I met him while we were on the job. He came out to an overtime job at Queens, and he stands out. Okay, if you actually have to see him in person, he's like maybe 6'2", 6'3". He's got a big beard, and he commands his presence. He has an aura about him that always made me feel like, okay, he's a cool guy to be around. He's one of the few guys at work that I actually like being around constantly. I talk to him every now and then. He's a good dude to talk to. And I hope that you guys enjoy this episode. So, producer, I had blanked out for a second.
It's all right. So we're actually recording this after we recorded the podcast, and let me tell you, like, his story is, I said it on the show, it's very captivating, and his voice is soothing, and it makes you pay attention.
Yes.
So and it's a very good story. So definitely you're gonna listen to it now. So it's good.
But before we do that, before we we shift to the actual interview, what do you think of the Black Fathers Matter series?
I think it's the best idea because, well, one, you said like there's not a lot of talk in regards to fathers when it comes to society and how actually in just terms of like parental figures in general, like usually the mother is the center point, the one who gets all her flowers, and it's always the father that kind of gets the shaft in a sense. I know like in recent years that's kind of changed, but I like the fact that you're shining a light on it because nobody really does, and it's important to young adults that will become fathers eventually to know that there is reward in being a good father. You don't have to, it's not something that you should be afraid of. It's not something you should run away from. And it's like I said, it's very rewarding. I mean, I myself as a father, like I find myself constantly going back and like, wow, like, and like experiencing these moments with my kids that it makes me go back and like, you know what, all the shit that I went through, worth it. And like a lot of people don't have that mentality because they don't want to go through it, but I'm telling you, there's no greater feeling than seeing like basically your hard work and effort being flown through your kids and them making you proud. Like it's the greatest feeling ever.
It's funny, you said something that I think kind of encapsulates the reason why I'm not a dad. You said that all the shit that people go through as parents, and they don't want to go through it. People ask me all the time, how come, I tell people ask me if I have kids, and I'm like, no, and I don't think I want any. And they ask me how come, and then I tell them, really, it comes to the fact that I like my freedom, and I don't want to have to decide whether or not I want to do what I want or do what I have to, because you can't just decide to do up and go as a dad. You have to You have to like you'll hear Marcel say later on, you have to decide, like, we plan things according to them now. You
Yeah.
know, we can't just do for ourselves. We have to do everything we do for them. And I don't believe that I'm at that point yet where I honestly will think, or honestly will decide, okay, or I'm okay with making the decision. I got to do this for them. I can't just do what I want anymore,
Yeah.
And
I used to be of the mindset that like everybody, I mean, this was like way years ago, where every time I heard somebody say that, oh, I don't want kids, they're like, yeah, you say that now. But
Mm,
then as I grew older, I started to realize it's like, you know what? It's probably better off to have that mentality at first, because nobody wants that pressure of eventually, oh, I gotta have kids.
mm,
Like I feel like that's like a generational thing. Like your parents start talking about, oh, when I'm gonna have grandkids and stuff like that. Like that's a lot of pressure.
it is.
And I think it's important to know what you want. And I always feel like if a time comes that you may feel differently, there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm,
So like if like for example, like right now you're content with not having kids. That
mm.
could change later, and there's nothing wrong with that either. So I think that's also important too, that there's no point in rushing into having kids. Obviously, don't wait until you're like freaking 60 years old to be having kids. I mean, I hope that at that point you made a firm stance. But yeah, there's no rush into it. I mean, you're still in your 30s. I mean, there's still time.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think it's something that uh it needs to be willing. You can't just like force it just because, oh, I'm reaching 35, I gotta have kids. Like, no, you don't have to have kids. If you don't want them, that's fine.
Understood. Um, I feel like we kind of owe you your own Black Fathers Matter episode. I mean, eventually we'll get there eventually. Um, but I also, that's why every time we do episodes and kids are involved, I always refer to you as a husband, as a father, and things of that nature, because, seeing as that you're the only one of the group that actually is a dad, and well, at least within Excuse Me Brother, Brother Zay has his own kids. I'm not sure if Brother Matt has kids. Does he?
He doesn't. I hope not.
So, and then obviously Brother Tay doesn't have any kids either. So every time the issue of fatherhood or parenthood or, marriage comes up, that's why I always refer to you. So,
Yeah,
but
I'm your
eventually,
resident father.
uh,
I'm the resident father.
yeah, you're the resident father of the group. So that's why I always refer to you. But yes, we will get you your own episode eventually. But for now, everyone, please enjoy this interview that we did with Marcel Bennett. All right. Now let's get right into it. It's another episode of the Black Fathers Matter series from the Excuse Me Brother podcast show. And this one, again, was long overdue. Been trying to get this brother on the show for quite a long time. Coming to you live, or should I say, pre-recorded from the podcasting with Bay podcast. My partner at work, one of my best friends at work, one of the guys I love to work with, Marcel Bennett. Welcome to the show, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks so much, man. It's been long overdue. It's took a little while to put together, but I'm glad I'm here. Let's make it a good one.
I'm glad you're here, man. So just tell us real quick, give us a little bit of your upbringing. Where you from? How long you've been, here on the earth with us? Just give us your real fast.
All right. So I'm 25 years old. No, I'm joking.
Wow.
Already.
I was gonna say that's really young.
No, I'm 39. Born originally in Jamaica. Came up here to the U.S. when I was like around 11, and I've been, in the Bronx ever since, about 20 plus years. And I met Jason, MTA. We do our little thing there, and overall, it's been 39 years of fun. I'm looking forward to another 39 to go.
Absolutely. So tell us a little about your home life. What was that like growing up in this Jamaica and up here?
Well, like I said, back, I was fairly young coming here, so I was like 11. A lot of my memories back then was mostly just traumatic events. that happened. Maybe an ass whipping here, or me not getting a
Like
certain
that's
treat
most of our
sometime.
stories.
Yeah, but I do have fond memories. Christmas. I have memories of my mom taking me to the zoo back then. I think I had a very wholesome upbringing. And while I did have brothers, they were much older than me, maybe 10 years plus. So I like to tell people that I technically grew up as an only child because, I was the baby, they were out doing their thing. So I didn't really grow up I didn't have that real close brotherly bond connection growing up as a child, but I still love them. Over time, as we became adults, that bond grew a little thicker, but as far as childhood, I would say I was the only child. I grew up just by myself.
With both parents or just your mom?
Well, see, it's a technical term. So while they weren't together, they were both involved.
Okay.
Like I lived with my dad, but I would spend time with my mom as well. I only lived with him for schooling because he was closer to the school that I was going to.
Mm-hmm.
And so they figured he was a little more stern, more stricter. It made more sense for me to be with him so he can help me, in school and whatnot. And I guess in a sense you can say that was probably the right move. When he immigrated to the States, I was there with my mom for about 2 years and my grades plummeted. I mean,
Right.
I wasn't a scholar by any means at that time, but I mean, it went from maybe B's to like F's within a
Yeah.
space of
Wow.
yeah, because it was like he was gone, and finally I had freedom. So school was I was in the background I was more like having fun, talking to girls. When he left, I got my first girlfriend. So that's to tell you, the lockdown was over. I was like, woo, time to party.
So do you think that that dynamic of having your father provide you with the structure and the discipline kind of was it, first of all, was it easier to deal with or harder to deal with? And two, do you think it made you more of a let's see, like, do you think you made more of a rebel or it made you more of a, okay, this is my discipline, this is how I'm gonna behave?
Well, I think it had a profound impact on my upbringing. Uh, it gave me a lot of structure. At the time, I was again. I thought in retrospect, looking back, it was a harsh I would say a very harsh upbringing. But we had that talk, and I don't think it was done out of malice. I think it was more. That's what he knew. He knew discipline. He knew like, hey, you like education is the key to succeed in this world. I need to drill that into your brain, like, and if I got to be a little harsh on you and you don't gonna like me for a couple weeks or whatever, that's fine. But I'm gonna let you learn that discipline. So I don't regret it. I think it definitely molded me into the individual I am. But there's certain aspects of that I don't instill in my kids. And I think that holds true for a lot of individuals that, you take the good from your upbringing and certain things that as you grow older, you realize this might be traumatic. That was traumatic for you. You
Mhm.
kind of hold that back from, putting that on your kids in terms of, say, maybe the screaming, the discipline, the hitting, the ass
Mhm.
whoopings and stuff like that. You kind of want to not let them go through that, but try to find an alternative means of still creating that structure without that trauma.
Like striking a balance.
Yeah, yeah, like finding that sweet spot. Just
Mhm.
there. And especially up here, you can't be giving out no ass whoopings. Them kids call 911 on you in a heartbeat.
So that leads me into my next question. When you moved up here to the States, did you get hit with like a culture shock, or it was just a
Oh,
seamless transition?
no, definitely not seamless. So I remember quite clearly another one of those events in your life that you don't forget. I left Jamaica, like I said, I was around 11, 12. I remember, my mom crying, kissing me goodbye, putting me on the plane. I didn't realize it was wintertime. up here. Jamaica's
Mm.
always hot, right? It's
Oh
always
boy.
nice and good there. So I came up, I remember I had on like a little shirt, whatever. It's hot. I'm not dressed for winter. And I remember I got off the plane, walking through the airport. I'm like, "Da, da, da," and I look outside and it was just sunny, and like I said, now I look outside, I can tell you if it's colder now, but at that time, I was like, oh, it looks nice out here. And I remember I finally got my bags and I walked, my dad was there to pick me up, and my stepmom, because he got married, to come up here. And I remember that door opened and that first fresh blast of cold air hit me. And I was like, until my breath away. Like I've never felt cold like that in my life. And that was one of many culture shocks. The household that I came into was very chaotic. I wasn't used to that. Again, I grew up as a single child. I came into a household of, she had already 3 boys.
Mm.
One was older than me and 2 that were younger than me. But they were already acclimated to their culture. They grew up in it. And now you're bringing this 11-year-old kid from Jamaica who knows nothing about America except what you see on TV, and you're telling them to be, accept him. There was a little bit of friction there for quite some time, while everybody tried to figure out where they belong in the space. Um, and their whole dynamic in their household was, like I said, quite different from how I grew up. So it kind of isolated me. I didn't really bond too much with them. I kind of stayed to myself, and I got my own friend group, my own peer groups. I did my own thing. And, the only time we interacted literally was when we were in the house. But aside from that, it was just like, hey, y'all do y'all thing, I do my thing. I don't fuck with y'all. Y'all are weird type thing.
Yeah.
Is she Jamaican too, or she's American?
Um, she was Jamaican, but she was more American than Jamaican. I don't remember if she was born. I think she was born there, came up here, but she was fully Americanized. She had her ways and everything. So I personally didn't like her only because she was a stepmother, and I found out about her maybe 3 weeks before I came up here.
Oh
So
damn.
yeah, so I felt there was a betrayal to my mom. But again, that was youth. I didn't understand the dynamics of their relationship. I
Mm-hmm.
just felt like, yo, how do you do that? Blah, 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 because I thought they were still together. But again, the
Yeah.
naivety of youth. So, but I forgave him for all of that. Like I saw the bigger picture as I got older.
How
Yeah,
old were you when you came?
11.
11.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
But
interesting because like when my parents were divorced, like I can't even remember when they were together, and it was just
mm,
something that it was just something that it was I never questioned. So
never
I
questioned it. Yeah.
yeah, so maybe it was just because I was younger and I just never processed it.
Yeah. And that's what I said, as I got older and I kind of looked back and I put 2 and 2 together, and based from what I understand, me having real long, hard discussions with him about why he did it, why whatever. You it was done basically because he realized that I wouldn't do well back home. There was a lot of opportunity, and with my grades plummeting the way it did, he was like, he wanted to keep me close to him, to keep that structure, to keep that push, that drive to, excel in school, because he felt like I lost my way once he left. So, and I was his only child. So, I get it. Maybe he could have went over it a different way, sure, but you know, hindsight is 2020 in that regard.
So do you think that if he had never called you up here to America, then you would probably still be in Jamaica, doing God knows what with God knows who, getting into God knows what?
Basically, yeah. I'm happy with the way my life turned out this way. I think
Yeah.
about it sometimes, like where would I be? And you could always speculate and come up with these grandiose ideas of what might have happened, but I think the reality is I would probably, I might have just went into the army, to be honest. My brother was already in the Jamaican army, so I might have followed in his footsteps just to uh get a leg up in terms of, moving ahead in society. But again, that's all speculation. I don't know. I don't know.
So let's fast forward a little bit, right?
Easily.
I met you, I think I think you guys came out to a Queens job, right? We working for transit and this, that, and the
Yeah.
third. Fast forward a little bit. I think it was you, Rebel, De Jesus. I don't know if you remember De
I
Jesus.
remember that. Yeah, I remember him. We went to Pete. Let me see. I got in transit in 2016.
Right.
And it might have been maybe a year and a half in.
I think
Because
no,
we were,
yeah,
yeah, because we were pushing for I don't know what year you came in. I don't remember, but
because me and De Jesus were in the same class.
yeah. So you guys were he came to my gang maybe a year or two after. So maybe like 2018, I think.
Yes, yes. So I remember seeing you the first time, and I was just like, okay, he's kind of a big dude, but he's also cool. You know what I mean? Like I talked to you like maybe like 5-6 minutes, and I'm like, okay, this guy seems cool. I think I could work with him. But then I never saw y'all again, so it was like, all right, And then I actually wound up picking into the
Into the
into the
gang.
trademark gang, and I
Yeah.
was like, that's where I've seen that guy from. I'm like, I remember his face. So when you started working, right? I always watched the way that you move. You seem like a very disciplined man. You seem like a guy who doesn't really like. Not to say that you don't play games, but like, you know how sometimes people have that. Oh, that we look like the angry black guy, but come to find out, no, we're actually very,
Very
very
calm.
calm.
Yeah. It's
I,
funny. My dad has that same face. People at his job, he says they don't mess with him because he has that very stern, like, I don't play that bullshit look. You know. Um, it's funny because so during my experiences with work over the years, I learned you can't really play around at work.
No, you can't.
Because perception is crazy. People can, what you might think is a joke, someone else who's not even in the conversation might take offense to that. And it gets
Exactly.
escalated into a whole nother level. And it happened to me in prior jobs. And so that's why when I got hired here, I just simply said that, you know what? Give everybody respect. I'll talk to you, we'll joke around, but I'll never take it to where I'm like this being outwardly disrespectful to you, to where you might take it a certain way. Now, if you give off that energy, then I'm gonna stay away from you. But if like certain people, I don't talk to like that. I keep my distance from them because I feel like they're negative energy, and you're gonna lead me into something that I'm not trying to get into. I need this,
Yeah.
So I just try to give everybody respect. I speak to you respectfully because we're not kids. We all grown ass men there. So everybody deserves a level of respect at the base level, and then you earn everything else up after that.
Like, I respect you as a man. I respect you as a worker, as someone who's trying to provide for their family.
Yeah,
And
you get those levels, and then now if you want to take it into like a friendship level where you can talk shit to each other and not get it, then now that's earned over time as I get to know who you are, your personality and whatever. But I won't just come up to you and just start doing that bullshit because, again, you might be having a bad day and I get punched in the mouth. And then it goes left somewhere.
Listen, on our job, things can get hot, things can get, stressful, especially
Real.
when things aren't going well. And you
Yep.
might say the wrong thing to the wrong person, and next thing you know, you got to fight.
Yeah.
It happens.
And
It's happened before.
and like I said, it's a lot of personalities that you have to learn to deal with. I think it's not the work is hard, it's dealing with the individuals around you. I think that's the hardest part of the job.
Absolutely.
And learning how to work with them.
So like I always had the philosophy of I'm here to work. Like if we make friends on the way, that's fine, but my first priority is to work. I'm not trying to play around. I'm not trying to like get into trouble or whatever. So it's like a lot of people don't have that mentality.
Yeah, I think someone told me when I first got hired, they said, listen, keep the streets to the streets. When you come to work, all that's left back there, and just treat this as it is. It's a job. You get a lot of what you call it, leeway. You get a lot of rope to hang yourself on this job, so, but just be mindful of where you are, and you get, keep your status low.
Yeah.
Don't try to get involved in everything. Just stay low and proceed to where you need to be.
Absolutely. And I can attest to that because I've seen many situations where people have hanged themselves. Like you lose the job, you fire yourself. That's
Yeah.
kind of a model that we have, producer. Like you get yourself fired, because like the job is not. I won't say it's extremely difficult, but one thing can go wrong, and we can either lose our job or lose your life.
Yeah.
Just fucking around.
It has happened. So
when did you meet Whitney? Whitney, your wife. Tell us
uh
about.
yeah. I met her, funny enough, I met her actually the same year I got hired.
Really?
2016. I remember I was living up by Wakefield on the 2 line, and we actually met on Tinder. It was one of those late nights. He was just swiping away at everything, trying to see what might happen.
I'm
And
glad
then,
that another online dating story success.
yeah.
Because I'm also that way.
Oh yeah. Oh, see, there you go.
See?
Yeah, it was one of
It
those
can
where
happen.
I think at that time Tinder was still somewhat fairly new, so you were actually meeting real people. It wasn't,
Yeah.
like a lot of bots. So you could still meet real people. They hadn't really turned into a full-blown hookup spot just yet.
Okay.
And I remember it was like 11 at night. I'm swiping. She had a weird ass picture when it came up, and I tell her all the time, like, oh, I wasn't even looking at pictures. I was playing the odds game here. Listen, I'm gonna swipe on 100, and of the 100, at least 20 of y'all is gonna respond back, and then we'll see where this goes. And so she was one of the 20 that hit me back, and the conversation was flowing a little bit easier than most. So I kind of stuck to her. We went out on a couple dates, and I remember I met her, and I was just like, she's not too weird. I mean, she's cool. So, and then it just slowly progressed from there. I tell her all the time. So she was like, I'm an introvert at heart. And Diamond will attest to it. Like, tend to stay to myself, have my little corner. I go in there, I sit down, I read, watch, listen to my music or whatever. And I'll interact here and there. But like I said, at heart, I stay to myself. I'm quite happy being in the house by myself.
Same.
Meanwhile, she's the complete opposite. She's an extrovert. She's the life of the party. She's always talking to random people. Like when she used to ride the trains, the bums would always be attracted to her because she has this uncanny ability of making eye contact. I keep telling her, stop looking at people's faces. Like, stop this.
Just look at their shoes. That's it.
Yeah, stop looking up. But she was she grew up in California. She went to college in Louisiana, and I think in Louisiana the culture there is way different than New York. Everyone is more outgoing, she said,
Very much
and
so.
friendly. Everybody speaks. So she said when she came to New York, she didn't understand that. She would always respond if someone said something to her, and I was like, nah, you got to put on the "don't fuck with me" face today. I could curse. Is that cool?
Yes.
Yeah.
I used to tell her, you got to put on the don't talk to me face and that New Yorker face. And she never really understood it. I was like, that's why these bums keep attacking you. You keep making eye contact.
Keep humanizing them.
Damn.
It's not to dehumanize them, but she would come home late at night, like 11, 12. And, this was before she moved in with me. And that was another funny story. But she used to live with her aunt, and I used to tell her, like, yo, you're coming home late at night. You don't want, anything could happen to you, because she would see it at the back of the train. I'm like, no one can help you. No one can help you.
Back there.
Body conductor, at least, so you can bang on the door.
Right.
But anyways, long story short, we dated. And, I really liked her. So I told her one day, I was like, all right, I don't know what you think this is, but, you my lady going forward. You my old lady. So you need to start acting appropriately. I remember she laughed. She's like, what? And I was like, you heard what I said. Now get in the kitchen and make me some eggs.
Damn.
And ever since then, it was just like, we clicked, we went along, got pregnant, had my son. and we got married right before the same year we found out, we got married. And it's just been, it's been a roller coaster of events ever since.
So,
But I wouldn't trade anything as of right now.
So this is where I want to get kind of peel back the layers just a little bit. Talk to me about how you found out, or how did you feel when you found out that she got pregnant, and what was your reaction?
Well, she got pregnant in New Year's. It's funny because we tracked it back and figured out exactly the moment it happened.
The moment,
And
damn.
Yeah, that's like a little inside joke between us. But I remember when she came, she was nervous as hell. And I remember, it's funny because she's very sensitive. So she started telling me like, I just don't feel right. Something feels off. Like, what's happening to me? I'm like, what the hell is wrong? What are you talking about? These like certain foods she just stopped liking. She didn't want to eat her favorite foods. I'm like, you all right? And so, one day I was just like, yo, you pregnant? She's like, what? Hell no. Hell no. And I remember she got sick. She went to the doctors, and standard procedures, you got a pregnancy test before they do like any x-rays or anything like that. And I remember she said the doctor came and it was like, all right, so first, congratulations. And she's like, what? He's like, you're pregnant. She's like, no, the fuck I'm not. No, I'm not. I was like, so you didn't want to be pregnant with my kid?
Yeah.
But when she told me, I was just like, all right, cool. So what we got to do now? We got to buy what? Strollers and shit. It just rolled because I was just like, fuck it. I'm 30 plus. It was gonna happen eventually. So yeah, where we at now? Let's move. And I remember watching all those shows where guys start screaming out. I'm like, nah, we're not gonna do that because I'm not like I'm not happy. So I'm like, yo, listen, what we gonna do next? Now when I had my daughter, that was a shock.
Oh,
we were
boy.
both just like,
Okay, tell us about that one.
yeah, when my daughter came around, that wasn't planned. We didn't even know. We weren't planning on another because we just had him maybe a year
I
ago.
always feel like in general, like the second child is usually never planned.
No, and I remember, again, she was in the hospital and again, doing x-rays. And meanwhile, I'm outside just chilling in the car, relaxing. And I remember she came back in the car and was like, you won't fucking believe this. And I said, oh shit, you're fucking pregnant. It was just like, but I was joking. I wasn't even being serious. I was like, oh, you're pregnant. And she was just like, yes. I was like, get the fuck out of here. And I remember I just sat there in the car and was just like, oh my fucking God, like, what are we going to do? And I was like, how far along are you? And it was just like, she said, it's not even that far because they only detected it because of the hormone change. So there wasn't even anything there. She's very sensitive. Like she's very in tune with her body, and she just felt off, and she needed to go to the hospital. And I said I will tell my daughter this when she's 18. I was just like, you want to go to the clinic?
Oh,
damn.
Because I was just like, yo, we just had this first. I don't know. Like, listen, man, oh my God, I don't know if we can do this. Because again, we were living in I was living in a 1-bedroom.
you still living at the time.
Yeah, and I'm like, with one kid, that's cool. But I'm like, yo, with two, we gotta move. We gotta go find something. I'm like, oh my God, But we said, all right, fuck it. Let's just see what happens. And best decision ever. Like I love these two little rugrats, and I don't know. I think it was everything. I think everything is preordained in a manner that everyone is on a journey, a cosmic journey, and what's supposed to happen will happen.
I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So what were the pregnancies like for you? We always talk about it from the woman's perspective, the mother's perspective, how their body changes and how they start to develop, the bond with the child. How did that work for you?
It was stressful. I gained weight on both of them. I was stress eating because her pregnancies were very rough. Some women get like that. that second trimester sickness or first trimester sickness. She had it the entire pregnancy. Where I remember with my son, she could only eat McDonald's nuggets and fries. That's it. Everything else was like, so if I'm in the house trying to cook something, all of a sudden, close the door, it stinks. Oh my God, like, it's fucking ridiculous. Though. Like, come on. And I'm grateful I didn't have to do no late night runs. I heard horror stories where guys were like, yo, she would just crave this one thing and I had to get up in the middle of the night to go get it. I didn't have that, but again, that was my first, first child being born. So everything to me was just like, you want me to do what?
Did you have any weird cravings as well? Because I know the women usually get it, but
I think for me I was just binge eating, because if she ate, I had to eat. So then after a while, when she pissed me off, I would just go in the fridge and just grab whatever the hell was in there and just stuff my. So I gained at least a good 20 pounds during that pregnancy. Yeah, I was just stuffing my face because I was just like, you're fucking stressing me out. Stop this shit. and I remember we used to go to the doctor, and the doctor would always say, you're doing so good. Oh my God, you're great. And I remember one time she called me in the middle of the day. I was working on the tracks, and she was just like, I don't feel the baby. I haven't felt the baby in like 4 hours. We got to go to the hospital. I'm like, but I'm working. I can't leave. And I remember I had to tell my foreman, like, yo, I got to go. Like, I don't give a shit what you got to do, but I'm out. Figure it out. I ran the fuck off the track. She pulled up downstairs, drove. I mean, I was doing at least 90 on the fucking FDR going down. Got to the hospital, and the doctor was like, oh, he's fine. He was probably sleeping. I was like,
right.
Oh man.
She said, look, he's moving. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? She's like, I didn't know any better. I was like, oh my God. But we joke about it now, but back then it was very stressful because every little thing we were freaking out over, but everything worked out in the end. By the second, my daughter's, when she was pregnant with her, we were veterans at this. I was just like, no, you're fine. Don't worry about it. We'll get to that. When she started having contractions, I was like, still 5 minutes. You're fine. When it gets to 2, we'll deal with it.
It's never like the movies where it's like as soon as the water breaks, you gotta rush. It's like, no, you got time. You got a couple hours.
Time. I remember the doctor was like, listen, when it gets to 2, you gotta get there. And I remember my son, my dumbass, I was there clocking it, and at one time it hit 30 seconds. I was like, oh shit, I think I fucked up. And I was like, hold on, we got to do it over again. Let me know when the next one comes.
Retime it.
Oh my God! Literally, when we got to the hospital, she was already dilated like 9 centimeters, and 10 is where you're supposed to be.
Oh wow!
And they were just like, he's coming right now. Let's go. I was just like, see, I helped you. We don't got to stay here that long.
Or I kept you going, sis. I kept it going.
Quick labor.
Yeah, man. So, but overall, it's a great experience seeing a child being born. It was very humbling in that moment.
Well, that's I've asked producer Jay about this also, and I've asked some of the other guests that we've had on the Black Fathers Matter series. Watching the pregnancy or watching the birth, watching baby come through the birth canal, it kind of like, did it disgust you? Did it change you? Did it just like, like, is that what that's like?
It was one of those where I was just like, oh.
Yeah, it's like, I would describe it as like the rawest form of emotion I ever feel.
Yeah,
you go through everything.
You said the
rawest form of emotion.
Okay.
Because you feel everything. Yes.
It's like surprise, disgust, happiness, and then it's like, oh shit, like, oh, he's here. But like the first cry was just like, oh, this is real. Oh, okay, I'm a dad now. And they tell you to cut the umbilical cord. I'm like, holy shit. It's uncharted territory. Here we go. But like I said, it's something you don't ever forget. And then when I look at her now, I'm always grateful. I say, yo, thank you. She's like, for what? I said, just thanks. You went through a lot to get them here. Thank you.
Now, as the relationship and your marriage, because you obviously you two eventually got married. Um, as you know, the children are growing. Does the dynamic between you and your wife change to the point where, I mean, obviously you two are still together today. So, what's the differences between pre-parenthood, post-parenthood?
Well, pre-parenthood, you still have freedom,
Mhm.
so you guys, I think the relationship was a little, it's a little more closer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And not to say anything against the kids, but you're able to still do, you're moving on your own time. Hey, you want to catch a flight? All right, let's book it. We out. Versus now with kids, it creates a whole new dynamic of where I tell her, I'm like, listen, you don't plan for yourself, you're planning through them.
Wait.
Yep.
And it creates tension. It's always this underlying tension between you because it takes away from the time that you have together to keep that bond going.
Mhm.
Because maybe one parent now is working a little extra while one parent feels like like they're always with the kids, and that underlying current is just there waiting to explode, and it will happen eventually where you guys are going to bump heads. It's going to be nasty fights. And like we had to get therapy to help us through
Wow.
this, because for me, I took on this mantra of me being the man, like, oh, I got to provide for my family, I got to go out there and work and bust my ass. And I
Mhm.
don't know if you remember, Dime, like I was on every overtime, I was doing all the overtime,
Oh yeah,
I
every
was going
weekend.
crazy, everything. But
Yeah.
there's a downfall to that. If I'm always at work, then I'm never home.
Mhm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then now the other parent is feeling neglected and feeling like they're the ones doing everything in the house and you're not doing anything. Meanwhile, I'm thinking like, well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm bringing in the money. But in that dynamic, you have to find the balance where, and my thing now is not all good money is good money, because it's not just you anymore.
I'm
Yep.
glad you said it.
Yeah, it's not just you anymore. There's other individuals that get affected by your actions. And so for me, it took a long time for me to get that through my skull and get
Mhm.
out of this idea of what society puts in your head, that as a man you must be the breadwinner and let the wife stay home. And that's not how that works, because if not, you're not gonna have a marriage for long.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we found therapy. We found a marriage therapist, not really a marriage therapist, but the
But
insurance has therapists on there, and so we just found one and said, hey, be a marriage therapist because you have it on your profile. And they really worked. They walked us through, and they gave us little techniques, and told us like, hey, you guys got to make time for yourself. Find it. Send the kids over to an honor or some, but you have to find that alone time to reconnect, even if it's just you sitting down talking. You got to get that time in to kind of get that bond back. So it's a work in progress. It will never be the way it was before kids,
Yeah.
mhm.
but doesn't mean that it has to be, horrible. There are ways for you to work on it.
You
Is
know
that
the. Oh, sorry.
no? Go ahead, Bridget, I'm sorry.
It's a weird. It just popped into my head because like when you were describing about the overtimes and finding time, it's not all good money is or not all money is good money.
Yeah.
The quote from is actually Avengers Endgame, where I think it's Tony Stark goes back in time to talk to his father, and
Mm.
he was talking about his son, well him because he wasn't born yet, and um he said no amount of money bought a second of, and like that oddly enough stuck with, and is why like I'm always very picky when it comes to like doing overtime, because it's just like is this gonna take away from anything, like my time with kids,
Yes.
time with my spouse, like
Hmm.
is it gonna affect that? And I always keep that in the back of my mind, because at the end of the day that's what's most important. My time with them is what's most important.
Yeah. And especially when your kids are young, they grow very fast. As you
Yes.
blink, they're walking. As you blink, they're talking. They're doing a lot of things, and you only get one shot to see all of this happen in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
People might say, "Oh, just have another kid," but it's not the same. Each kid is
Oh,
different. Everybody has their own personalities, and so like, I told my wife, one day she was like, if you want to work, you can work, and I said, no, I want to go take them bike riding. We just bought them new bikes. Listen, I don't get a lot of opportunities to teach them how to ride a bike. That's something that's gonna stick in their brain and in my head. That's a memory I want. I said,
yeah.
work away. It's fine. I'll figure it out another way. So,
No,
those
real quick, Marcel, I always say, and this is why I kind of don't do overtime anymore. It's like the track is always going to be there, and the
Yeah.
work will always be there. I'm not going to give more time than they need from me, than I'm obliged to give them. If I want to do the overtime, then that's because I chose to do it, not because of necessity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
See how overtime works on our job. They cut us off like at the ankles just recently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like it's always gonna be there. They don't need it. Doesn't need me. I don't need it. It'll be there. It'll be there when I get back too.
Right.
Yeah, the work will still get done, regardless if you're there or not. It's gonna get done.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's in my in my scenario, it's more like I said, that mentality of, bills pile up, kids are expensive. Oh, Jesus Christ, kids are expensive. You have daycare. Oh, I had no idea the amount of money it takes to raise these little people.
Sure.
And, I came into it very naive. She had a lot more experience dealing with kids. And so I came into it. She's like, "Oh, we got to find a daycare." I was like, "Oh, how much is that?" We get them like $40. It's good. She's like, "What? Are you crazy?"
Nope.
I was like, "A week?" I said, "Get that." Oh my God, dude. It's like rent payments you're doing for these.
Yes.
It is crazy out here. And some of the time, you still got to bring food for them. Like, my daughter went to this Montessori school around here, and we're paying like $1,500 a month to send her there. And I still have to make lunch for her in the morning. And I'm just like, every morning
no.
as I'm making this lunch, I'm complaining like, what am I sending her here for?
Why? Yeah.
What am I doing? And she's just like, you don't understand. This is a good school. It's teaching her to be independent. And when she goes to 3K, they want to do that. I'm just like, I don't give a shit. Why can't they provide food?
At least, right?
Yeah, I'm just like, come on, it's ridiculous. But it is a good school. It taught her to be very she runs the house now, and I really got to check her in. She's out of control.
She said, "No, Daddy, I decide when I go to bed."
Right?
It's a fight every night. And I'm like, we do this every single night. When the big hand goes here and the little hand is there. So but I wouldn't change it. It's like I said, she's about to enter 3K, then that bill goes away. And I said, listen, just transfer that to pay down whatever other debt we have and just keep going.
Right.
We're not going to change how it is. But again,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was in a similar situation with the daycare, and I was actually very fortunate enough to, because I don't know if you've ever had to deal with it where you were pretty much forced to take your child to the daycare, and if they missed a day, they will still charge you. Was yours like that?
See, mine's was more. So you're paying monthly. So whether or not once you agree to the initial contract in the beginning, like, hey, we're bringing her 5 days a week, and we're gonna do extra time at the end of the day, then you're stuck with it.
So you paid monthly,
whether she goes in or not. You already paid for the day.
Okay.
So the first of the month.
So I was actually I was grandfathered into a payment essentially where I just paid for the day. So if I was off of work one day, I didn't take them. I didn't have to pay. And I was because I was one of the daycare's first clients. So that's why I said I was grandfathered into that, because the newer clients, they didn't get that.
Yeah, Yeah,
So so
it,
okay, eventually, Marcel, and I know you're pressed for time, so I'm gonna kind of speed this up. I know that eventually your wife became ill, like she contracted an illness. How did that affect? And I kind of know this story, but when your wife got sick, how did it completely just change the dynamic in the household and how much it stress it put on you as a dad?
well, so this is what 2020. Last year, 2023, she found out she had breast cancer. Just randomly, she just again in tune with her body. She started not feeling right, aches and pains in her chest. She went to her gyno. The gyno said, as a precaution, just go get checked out. It doesn't hurt, whatever. And she did it. I remember we got the call. It was on a Sunday. No, it was a Saturday. I was off, so it might have been Friday or Saturday. And we were in the house, and she's like, "Oh, this is the doctor. I got to take this." And she came in the room, and then I told the kids, like, "Sit down. I got to go see what's going on." Mama went in, and she just had this 50-yard stare going. And I was just like, oh, shit, what now? I'm not even thinking about cancer. I'm just like, oh, what now? Like, Jesus Christ, man. And, she sat down. She put the lady on speaker. And she's like, can you just repeat what you just said? And she was just like, hold on 1 second. Applying that. She's going to be pissed at me. That's cool. And, she was just like, I'm sorry to tell you that you have this particular cancer, triple negative. And, once she said that, it was just like, for me, it was like a whirl of emotions because I was just like, oh, fuck. But at the same time, now I got to be strong. Like, I can't break down in front of her. I got to, try to be this rock.
Yeah.
And, it's a lot because from the moment they tell you, it's like, go, go, go. You're automatically, they're booking you to see 50, just a shit ton of doctors. Because now they're in rush mode to get you into treatment to attack this before it gets any crazier. And I was overwhelmed. I'm going to tell you right now, like, I was just like, she kind of just went, because, she's always the planner and the organizer. So she took charge and she was just planning all her appointments. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on here?
Man.
And I remember I went to a lot of her things, and the doctors were explaining, and she did well initially, but if I'm overwhelmed, I can tell that it was really messing with her. So we had a heart-to-heart one day, and she finally broke down. I was just like, yo, listen, man, like, you don't gotta be strong around me. Like, if you need to cry, you want to vent, scream, whatever, I'm here, I'll take it. It's cool. And, she really broke down and cried and just said she wanted to be here for her kids. She wanted to see them grow up, graduate, do all these things. And I told her, I said, yo, listen, you're going to do all of this. We just got to stay the course. Do what they tell us to do, get our second opinions, go to other places, make sure that what they're doing is what you need. And then they're not giving us half-ass treatments. Because, there's a perception in society that the medical community treats minorities different than how they treat their other clients. So it's like, make sure we get our second opinions, make sure you're getting the best treatment that there is out there, and we're going to get through this. And I wouldn't wish this experience on no one, because it's rough to see someone you care about in pain, but knowing there's nothing you can really do to help them, except just tell them it's going to be okay. You know what I mean? Like, I just felt helpless. Like, when she was having her treatments and she was going through all these pains and she had to take all these medicines, and it was hard because, I was the one that had to look after the kids. I also look after her. I wasn't getting no sleep. I was really messed up in the game. Like, I would come to work, and as soon as I sit down, I'm gone. I'm out.
I recall.
Until someone wakes me up and says, yo, it's time to go on the tracks. And I'm like, all right, get back in. And I'm going to get, like, I put on a lot of weight. I was very stressed. That's why I'm on blood pressure meds now, because of that whole experience, like, really put my blood pressure through the roof. And they were just like, you got to get it under control. I had to get back, find a therapist again, someone to talk to, because you tend to internalize all of this, and that's
Yeah.
obviously not healthy. You need to get it out.
And then not
So,
only that, but you have to. I remember you wind up being the main sole provider in the house.
right, yeah, she couldn't work, and so once again, it was, the blessing was that her family really stepped up. Her aunt actually came out and spent like almost 5 months with us,
Oh wow!
which gave me the opportunity to then go work and do some overtime to help cover the spread of the bills.
Right.
And also that gave me a break, because it took an emotional toll seeing her like that. So when I was at work for that little bit of time, it was like I didn't have to think.
Right.
I didn't, it was just like you go in, you just do what you got to do. And for just that little bit of that 8 hours out, mentally, my head was just clear, and I was able to like prep myself to come back in. So yeah, but it was a rough year. Thankfully she had her surgeries, and her stuff came back that she was cancer free. But now you get that diagnosis and you want to be happy, but in the back of your head you're just like, all right, now you got to change up everything, how you do, your diet, the stuff that you use on your body, because you're trying to avoid getting that re-diagnosis again. And I don't think she could handle going through that all over again. So, but I'm grateful I still have her here, and the kids still have their mom. And so, I tell her, listen, we're going to enjoy this and take this one day at a time and just enjoy life for what it is. Like a lot of things that used to bug me and stress me out, I'm just like, fuck, that shit is not important. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We'll have faith, and it'll get taken care of. We'll do what we have to do, but I'm not going to sit here and scream and rant over stuff anymore. I said, I used to always tell her, you got to learn how to relax. And it's funny, the roles have reversed, because now I'm the one that's normally like, oh shit, how are we going to do this? And she's like, worry about it, babe. Come on, come watch a show with me. And I'm like, how can you watch a show? But she's told me, she's like, yo, listen, man, whatever happens, happens. You come to realize what's important in life, which is family, friends, and those that you love around you. That's what's, everything else is just a facade. It's important, but it should not be your number one priority.
No, I
Absolutely.
the same. So the reason why I do this little, I started this little mini series, because I feel like society has started this thing where dad doesn't matter anymore, especially as Black dad. Like they try to devalue the father in the household, and my job, or I feel like it's my duty to kind of just dispel that, to counteract that. And I think men like you are one of those shining examples, because I see you come to work every day, and for at least the first 30 minutes of the day, you're on the phone with your kids. I pick that up every day. He talks to his children every single day while he's at work. And I feel like that's what we need. You know what I'm saying? We need to show the world that, no, we're good dads too. Okay.
Yeah,
We're not just sexual miscreants. We're good dads. What do you say to that?
We got to remember also, society tends to gravitate towards the negative, because that gets you the most clicks, the most headlines.
Yep.
The good always tends to float underneath everything. You have to dig and search to find that. And I think there are millions of good, hardworking men out there, whether it be Black dads, whatever. But Black dads in general, I think do get stigmatized, but there's some good ones out there.
Absolutely.
And that's my daughter telling me it's bedtime.
All right, you see?
I'm coming. Give me a second.
Is there anything that you want to say, any advice that you want to give to dads around the world, to fathers to be, or aspiring fathers? Is there anything that you want to say to give them any kind of encouragement?
Yes. Communication is key. Whether it be with your wife, your baby mom, girlfriend, whoever. Men don't tend to communicate as well as good. Again, we're taught, whether it's through society, family, whatever, to internalize your feelings and not express it. And definitely you need to learn how to express. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel sad. Don't express yourself. I'm coming. I'm coming. Express yourself and be open to different ideas and thoughts. Life is short. Listen, before you blink an eye, you start to get gray hairs. Cherish every moment. If you have kids, cherish them, love them, and you break the cycle. Whatever cycle you had growing up, you don't need to repeat that. Make it a challenge to change the dynamics and raise them in a way that is better than how you came up. I think that should be the goal for everyone, to uplift your kids and make their lives easier than how it was for you.
Producer, you got any questions you want to ask before we let them go?
No, I think you touched on everything. Yeah, no, you did that. Your story is very captivating. I'll tell you that much. Like, I was like listening, like, wow. It's like, I went through all of that.
I had to get him in here.
Yeah.
And lastly, Marcel, before you go, just plug in your podcast, because I know you and your wife host a podcast together. So plug it in.
Yes. So we do a podcast. It's called Podcasting with Bay. We've been at it for, we did it for about 2 years, took a break during the cancer thing. We're back again. We're doing little episodes here and there, trying to get back in the flow. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, which is Apple, Spotify, any platform you have. Trust me, it's on there. Just search Podcasting with Bay, all one word. We got an Instagram, Podcasting with Bay. And check us out, man. I think we're fun. I think we're funny. We're getting a little better at it, and we'd love to get feedback from everyone.
Absolutely. I've listened to some episodes myself, starting from the Genesis, and I really enjoy what you and Whitney do. Marcel, Thank you for coming on tonight. I know you got to go, so I'm going to just let you go now. Thank you for coming. I'll see you at work in a couple of days. I got some stuff to do tomorrow. So,
congrats.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Talk to you later.
All right. Later.